Hey guys, today on Detail with Passion, we're going to be talking about why IGL, with perspectives from installers, distributors, Caribbean relevance, health, customers, and R&D. Here's the respective timestamps so you know where you're headed. Enjoy! First off, an introduction from our speakers.
Hey guys, my name is Amir Kerry, co-owner of Signature Details and IGL Master trainer for the Caribbean.
Hey guys, my name is Akib Ali and I am the owner of A&P Distribution, the official distributor for IGL products in the Caribbean.
Why choose IGL as an installer?
So from an installer point of view, besides the support was the first flip of the stone for me, right? I was excited that I could call, for example, Danny or Ivan, a different part of the world, as a friend and get advice, right? That was one thing. The second thing was IGL at the time was the only company supplying products in the quantities of 60 mLs and 50 mLs, correct?
Yeah, so we were able, so initially their products were like standard 50 ml. They did have some products that would come in like the 30 ml sizes. That was kind of common with most of the other ceramic coating manufacturers.
But that's accessory coatings, so you're looking at things like trim, wheel, plastic, glass.
Headlight, yeah, that kind of stuff.
So that was a big deal for me because at the time, I'm not gonna say what brands are coatings, but I mean it's pretty popular. They would only come in like 30 ml.
30 ml, yeah.
That was the biggest size, and that was in a kit, right? IGL was actually supplying you with double the amount for around the same price, with added benefit. For example, your health. Then eventually, sticking with that, because I mean, time is money, quantities is money. I mean, as a business owner, you're looking at spending the least amount to make the most amount of money, and you could only do that by bulk buying, which is why bigger sizes would make more sense, obviously. Fast forward a few years up until when it was 2024, they released the essentials.
Yeah, the essential sizes.
So essential sizes, they don't come in a kit. They come standalone product. So no stickers, no certificates, no applicators, no prep spray. Literally just a bottle of coating, and it was available in 100 ml. That was a killer for me.
Yeah.
That is where my business started to take off because it took my operating costs down monthly.
Yeah, because you're now able to buy like your pre-coat. You could get 500 ml, you could get a liter, you could get 5 liter if you want. Because I mean, that's something they use on all vehicles once you install any coating. And then you could bulk buy applicators, you could bulk buy even just the towels.
Yeah, you could literally buy everything in pieces.
Yeah, and that way, when you buy everything separately in bulk, you know, you have a lot of cost savings passed on to the installer.
But, I mean, if we're being frank, it is a more upfront cost.
Yeah.
You know, so you spend more upfront, but you make a lot more over the course of like a month, 2 months, 3 months.
Yeah.
You know, that's providing, you treat the operation like a business and not like a side hustle.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things with that is it wasn't super popular in our market because you obviously have to be doing a fair amount of volume to be able to consume that amount of coating within the recommended time frame.
Yeah.
So small shops wouldn't really benefit from it per se until, you know, they get that volume up because they'll need to be having, you know, the customers to put out that coating. Otherwise, you know, the coating will just remain and maybe start crystallizing and they can't use it anymore and so on. So I like that we have the option from IGL. We still have the kits, whether it's a do-it-yourselfer or somebody who maybe not heavily into ceramic coatings, maybe just doing 1 or 2 cars a month.
Yeah.
You can still purchase a kit. But if your business is growing and you do have the volume and you're able to do it, you could switch over to the essential sizes and, you know, it'll bring your unit cost down quite a bit. I mean, I had a shout out IGL social media team as well. Because, you know, we're a small island in the Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah.
The other small Caribbean islands as well. And, you know, for us to get representation on the global stage, there's usually be, you know, few and far between. But if you look at IGL social media, right, very frequently, you're going to see installers from Trinidad and Tobago, from St. Lucia, St. Vincent,
Barbados,
Barbados, all over the Caribbean and the small islands, and you will actually see them on IGL's global social media. We had
You remember the competition?
yeah,
The Kenzo competition?
yeah, some years ago. And
Yeah, most installs or something like that
Yeah.
for, I think it was
I think-
over a month or something.
Amir actually. Yeah. You know, so I love that representation because a lot of the global brands or the big popular brands that you'll see, if you look at their stories, you look at their reposts and so on, it's always, you know, really nice shops, and kudos to the people who get reposted, you know, it's great for them. But you know, you're not really seeing any Caribbean people there and this kind of thing. And so just for me personally, I was proud to see our local installers and people in the region
Yeah, getting forward.
getting that forward, you know, on social media and so on. You know, we realize, you know, one of the things that they really promoted themselves with that nobody does really pay attention to is the low and zero VOC coatings. And they were really some of the pioneers in that. And what that means is that a lot of the harmful solvents that would produce these scents that you really should not be breathing in, their coatings either contain a very reduced amount of it or none at all. Some of the coatings that we would have used previously, from the time you open that in a small enclosed environment like that, the smell,
You can't breathe.
yeah, you'd be getting headaches, your eyes red, you know. It's not something that you don't want to be exposed to unless you really had to be in it.
No, but at the time, you didn't.
So
we,
at
we
the time,
accepted it
yeah,
as it was. It was
Yeah.
like, hey, this is normal.
This is just
a
how it
human
is.
industry.
right? So you're able to use it, and you know, you don't have those ill effects, you don't have those side effects and so on. And it's something that you really have to think about, and it's something that people don't really think about. If you're gonna be doing this, you know, as your bread and butter, as your job, and you're gonna be exposing yourself to these chemicals day in, day out over a number of years, I mean, it's all great when you're young and, you know, you don't have any health concerns and so on, but, you know, in 10, 15 years of continuous exposure to different chemicals and so on, the chances of you developing some sort of health-related issues is actually quite high. And that's why I think IGL from the onset decided they are going to try to make all of their blends as installer-friendly as possible. Because why not take care of the people who actually using and installing your product? In terms of all the certifications, I mean, when we got the first box and you look at the box, because it's right there on the packaging, you know, they are REACH compliant, ISO 9001 certified,
ASTM tested.
ASTM tested, independently nanotechnology verified.
Graphene Tech verified.
Yeah, they actually verify that, you know, if they say this product has graphene in it, it is actual graphene. So, you know, it kind of shows that this is a company that takes accountability about what they're putting out and what they're putting in their product. And they want you to know that, hey, if we say we're putting this in, you don't need to worry, it's actually in there.
Why choose IGL as a distributor, and how's your experience been so far?
You know, this is one of the things that I look for with any distribution partner going forward. The ability to not just produce your own products, but also do the R&D, do the research and development, and create and even change the formulations of these products on the fly. IGL is such a receptive company. Like, I would have had simple email discussions with Kyung, he's the owner of IGL, and, you know, explain to him about like water spots in the Caribbean, the problems with like the Sahara dust and stuff. You know, on the button, he was able to suggest, you know, he could do a custom blend of IGL Delete with maybe a higher concentration and so on. I told him, I said, well, I don't think that's necessary because, you know, Delete is working pretty well right now. And then we have the marine version, which is a little bit more concentrated. But, you know, the fact that they would be willing to do that or support in any way that they can, you know, is something that really kind of sets them apart from other companies in the space. It really shows that commitment to their distribution partners, their distribution territory. They're very strict with the territories because they want to ensure that you as the local distributor, you know, you have the bandwidth to be able to promote the products, sell the products, and, you know, generate some sort of revenue. So they take that geographic boundary very seriously. So you will hardly ever find any distributors cross-selling into someone else's territory and so on.
Yeah, but it's go beyond the distributors too, because even if somebody is interested in IGL as an installer,
Yeah.
any email that they send to the company comes to you. That's correct, right?
Yeah, so once you put the location, they are going to route you to the direct distributor in your region who's responsible for taking care of your claims. And they also do follow-up questions as well. You know, they reach back out to make sure that the distributor has made contact with you and they've explained, the products and how to access them and so on. So, that's something that both the customer and the distributor, being held to a very high standard there.
IGL family, the IGL family,
Yeah,
that is directly what we were introduced to from the training,
yeah,
and it still stood up until now.
yeah,
That stood out for me as an installer in particular because when I started this business about 7 years ago, we didn't really have help or guidance. We didn't have a body to stand with or stand by to say, hey, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to look out for. So the IGL family was just a forum now for us to grow as a unit.
yeah.
And that actually rolled over now to the point that you was gonna make, where we could go to SEMA and we could basically stay with these guys.
Yeah, so that's the thing also. And an online forum or a WhatsApp chat and all that is all well and good, but one of the things that I like is that you tend to have a big distribution partner presence at the events like SEMA and so on. So in going to SEMA and spending time at the IGL booth and so on, we've been able to meet and interact with the USA distributor, the Australian distributors, Singapore and Thailand, as well as meeting the reps from the company every year. And we have a good relationship with all of these guys, even like if it's a distribution question or even on the installer side, we could reach out to these guys anytime and we'll get some sort of guidance. I mean, sometimes it takes a day because they're in different time zones and so on.
That's a lie.
Well,
If we call Danny now, Danny will answer
sleep.
the phone.
Danny just be
Right?
awake all the time.
If we call Ivan now,
Yeah.
Ivan gonna answer. If we call Kiyong now, Kiyong will answer.
Yeah. I like the fact that you have this global network. Everybody's using your products, everybody has their tips, their tricks, and then some of the unintended applications. And that's how the whole IGL home line really started up.
How does IGL coatings hold up for the Caribbean?
Bringing everything back full circle, back to the Caribbean, is really the similarities between our region and Malaysia. The first thing is really the climate. So the environment where these coatings are conceptualized, designed, produced, and tested is very similar to our Caribbean climate. Subtropical, they have a lot of rainfall. Between here and Malaysia, you have very similar types of weathering. So I like the fact that the coatings are not designed in a country that experiencing snow and, is very different from our climate. Even though most companies, I suppose, would send samples out worldwide and they'd kind of tweak their formulations, but the core market that they're designed for is really very similar to our climate.
Is the IGL line user-friendly for customers?
They have an entire lineup of products that they have available for sale for maintenance and care and rejuvenation. And it's not things that are limited to the installer. So once we do our job, you could advise your customers now to use this at these intervals. Because at the time, the norm was, okay, you get your car coated, you have to take it back in 6 months' time to do a top-up or a repair, which is basically going to be surface polish with fillers and then reapplication of a top coat. For me, at the time it was normal, so I didn't see a problem with it. But when we started using the IGL line, it was like, okay, well, these guys actually don't need to see us in 6 months or maybe a year, unless they actually have a problem. So the lineup from IGL made this a lot easier for us. I mean, some people see it as losing money because, you be profitable from return business. But the customers ended up getting more value out of this because now they could do this at home. They could do this in their garage. And the products are so user-friendly and so eco-friendly that they don't have anything to worry about at all.
So one of the things, and this is from being involved in the retail operation of the store in the early days and so on. A lot of customers with different brands of coatings and so on would eventually end up, they come to purchase a wash, or they come to purchase stuff to decon, or even just like a drying towel or something, and then having conversations with them. One of the complexities of ceramic coatings was actually the maintenance. Some of them had 3 or 4 different maintenance products that they would have to buy. They would have to use them at different intervals. So you might have to use this specific wash every 6 weeks. And then you'll have your regular wash that you'd use outside of that. And
Yeah, so they have an extra job.
Yeah. Then you'd have a topper to use at a different time and so on. And, it used to just kind of frustrate people, and, they'll get a ceramic coating, they'll be very excited, maybe for the first month. And then after that, it's just like, this is too much, just whatever happens to it, happens to it. So from a sales perspective, it was great for us because IGL, their lineup was super simple. They had one wash, they had one snow foam,
They didn't have overlapping products.
Yeah, they really didn't. So you had Enhancer, which is a quick detailer for customers who still want to spray and wipe something on their car.
You
And
have
then,
Genco, which is now AIO, I believe.
Yeah.
Similar formulas, some small differences.
yeah,
Which is a cleaner and a water spot, a light water spot remover in one.
yeah. And then, in terms of toppers, there's only really one, which is Premier. And it's been that way from inception to now. So you don't find, that there's a lot of overlap, or that the customers get confused in terms of how to maintain it and so on. They make it very, very simple.
Is IGL Coatings just on the automotive sector?
One of the things that really kind of opened my eyes with IGL, the company, very early on was, all that's happening during like peak COVID time, right? Was a product that they came out with called IGL Titan. And Titan was very far removed from what they were doing in terms of automotive stuff. Titan was a self-sanitizing surface coating, kind of designed for any hard or solid surfaces, really to sanitize the surface continually without having to come and, use alcohol-based sprays and all this kind of stuff. And, that just kind of blew my mind that, these guys were able to do everything in-house in terms of the R&D. First you had to come up with the idea, then you have to figure out how to, create this idea and turn it into a workable product that could exist in the real world and, actually be applied and work how you envision it working. And the fact that they were able to do this so quickly during that COVID period, it was just amazing to me. It was almost like you're working directly with a lab and a production company, all wrapped up in one. So, I told myself, I said, there are going to be opportunities down the line with this company outside of just the automotive field. And that's something that I was very interested in.
Hey, but so said, so done, because we paused for a minute and was like, okay, they're doing automotive coatings. Cool, that's what we're looking for. They have everything in the automotive lineup. Then boom, they drop Titan and they're like, hey, but these guys really not just focused on coatings or automotive. They are a lab. They are doing R&D. After that, we were right though, because they then came out with Armor. They then came out with Aegis.
Yeah.
They then came out with Mithril. I'm missing something in that lineup too. They have matte Aegis.
Yeah, they had Eclipse as well.
Eclipse as well, which was all industrial. They even have a new marine line that they developed. I believe it was last year.
What's a standard from IGL that stood out to you?
You remember what the Kenzo experience was?
Yeah, so the Kenzo experience was not just the coating, but from the time the customer comes into the shop or approaches the installer for, information or anything like that, that's where they said the experience starts. So they always advise, you need to be properly attired. You need to answer the phone or respond to the messages professionally. You need to have a nice, clean, professional workspace.
It don't need to be fancy.
Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't need
organized.
to be fancy, but you
Yeah.
know, it needs to be clean and functional, right? And part of that experience is really just that whole handling of the customer, handling of the vehicle from inception all the way to handoff, and after that as well. Because you don't want to have a really great experience and then 3 weeks, a month, 6 months later, you see something on the paint or you have a problem with the vehicle and you call the installer, you can't get onto them. Or you're trying to schedule maintenance and they just keep giving you a runaround because they already get that coating job and now you out the door and they don't really want to interact with you again unless you're coming back to recoat the vehicle. That is very much against what, you know, the company advised.
But that's a tough transition because that was the norm for a long time. That was the
Yeah.
norm for years, right? But the biggest thing that stood out for me, and this is actually what helped me grow my business, and it has nothing to do with the products actually, was the Kenzo experience was centered around transparency and honesty to the customer. I've had multiple customers come to us to ask about getting things done, and as a professional, I knew certain things didn't make sense. And I would say, listen, I don't think you should do this. Maybe you should do this. After having a consult, let them know you don't have to send your vehicle here to get it done. You have the information. Go wherever you feel comfortable. Just make sure you get it done. You know, so transparency now became the foundation of my business. And I would say that's why we were able to scale.
All right, guys, this was Detail with Passion. You supposed to see you next time.
You quarrel with me in the middle of the outro.
You be cast.
You know, we see you next time.